Imagine watching the only world you know burn to the ground. Smoke fills the sky as soldiers march through your streets. The homes of your neighbors are silent. Your family is torn apart, and you know with absolute certainty that you will never see this place again. In 605 BC, the Babylonian army swept through the ancient world, leveled Jerusalem, and took its people. Among the captives was a young noble named Daniel. Along with other young men from the city, Daniel was forced to walk hundreds of miles through brutal terrain. Every step pulled him further from his family, his temple, and everything familiar. His survival now hinged on navigating an entirely alien society, an empire specifically engineered to make conquered people forget where they came from. Babylon was designed to overwhelm. The captives were surrounded by towering walls, massive temples honoring foreign gods, and a labyrinth of palaces overflowing with unimaginable wealth. The empire's first psychological tactic was erasure. They stripped the young men of their Hebrew names, renaming Daniel to Belteshazzar to align him with their own gods. Next came cultural immersion. The Babylonians selected the brightest captives for a 3-year royal training program, feeding them rich meats and fine wine taken straight from King Nebuchadnezzar's own table. This is where Daniel drew a line. He quietly decided that while they could change his name and dictate his education, he would not eat the king's food. Refusing a direct royal provision was a terrifying risk for a prisoner of war. This small, private act of defiance was the first step in anchoring his identity against an empire trying to wash it away. As decades passed, Daniel proved uniquely gifted. God gave him the ability to interpret complex, terrifying dreams for the king, a skill that elevated him from a displaced captive to a high-ranking royal advisor. The ancient world was incredibly volatile. The Babylonian Empire eventually fell, replaced overnight by the Medes and Persians. Yet amid violent regime changes, Daniel remained a constant fixture in the palace. By now, he was a gray-haired old man. He had served multiple kings and managed vast provinces, maintaining a record of excellence without a single mark of corruption. He outlasted these ruthless monarchs through an unwavering consistency of character, rather than the typical political scheming of the palace. That kind of integrity breeds intense jealousy. Rival officials scoured Daniel's public and private life, desperate to find a scandal. They found absolutely nothing. Realizing his only vulnerability was his faith, they devised a legal trap. They stroked King Darius's ego, true-to him into signing an unalterable decree. For 30 days, anyone who prayed to a god or man other than the king would be executed. When Daniel heard the law was signed, he didn't argue. He simply went home, went to his upper room, opened the windows toward Jerusalem, and knelt to pray. His enemies were waiting. They caught him in the act and immediately rushed to the king, demanding Daniel's arrest. Daniel didn't launch a political protest. He made a quiet, absolute refusal to let a human government dictate the terms of his soul. King Darius was devastated. He respected Daniel deeply and spent the entire day frantically searching for a legal loophole to save him. But the laws of the Medes and Persians were final. As evening fell, the sentence was carried out. Daniel was lowered into a deep pit, and a heavy stone was rolled over the opening, sealing him in total darkness. Below him echoed the guttural growls of hungry beasts. These were starved predators kept specifically for executing enemies of the state. This was the ultimate test of everything Daniel had stood for. His faith was now pitted directly against physical death, waiting in the dark to see if his anchor would hold. The king couldn't sleep. At the very first light of dawn, Darius hurried to the den. With a trembling voice, he called down into the terrifying silence of the pit. Then a calm voice drifted up from the dark. "O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the mouths of the lions." It's easy to feel the pressure to drop your convictions just to blend in with whatever culture is currently in charge. Daniel spent 70 years in exile, watching invincible empires crumble, while his own focus never shifted from the God who sustained him. He proved that when you refuse to let an empire dictate who you are, you end up becoming the one person they can't ignore, eventually forcing even a Persian king to recognize a power higher than his own.